Hi friends, welcome to Web Technology. In this video, I will explain about working with arrays in AngularJS. In AngularJS, we can create arrays for storing collection of data. And here the array elements are represented by square brackets. And in AngularJS, we usually create variables using scope parameter, right? So if you want to create array variable, you need to use scope dot a variable name equal to using square bracket. We have to define the array structure. Inside this square bracket, we can store numbers, we can store text data, or we can store mixed type of data. And in AngularJS, we have certain methods. These are the common methods. If you want to insert more data in the existing array, we can use push function. So push method is used for adding more data in the existing array. We can insert single data or we can insert multiple data using JavaScript object. For example, using curly brace, we can store multiple parameters of a particular person or employee or some object. For example, to store some product details like name of the product is iPhone, smartphone, and the price is 78,000. So if you want to store more details about a particular object, we can use JavaScript object format for storing the data. And if you want to delete some data, we can use splice method. In splice method, first parameter is index, where you want to start deleting the data, and how many number of data you want to delete as a second parameter, that is count. Count is how many data you want to delete. So if I give 1 means from that index position it will delete one data, and depends on the count, how many number of count you are mentioning, that will be deleted. For example, here we have created array using scope parameter. We have created array with the 5 numbers 10, 45, 67, 89, 8 and 89. So if I want to delete 67, we can, the index is 0, 1, 2, right? So the index is 2 and I want to delete only 67. So the count is 1. So you have to use 2 comma 1 for deleting 67. So these are the two methods used for inserting and deleting elements from the array. Then one more point is, if you want to display the array values in a HTML view, there is a one directive called ngRepeat directive. Using ngRepeat directive, we can iterate the array elements. And we can display the array elements using HTML elements. For example, I want to display the array elements using a ordered list. Using OL tag, I want to display the entire array elements, right? So here I have created scope dot names equal to John, David, Arul, Vmax. So I want to display like this: 1 John, 2 is David, 3 is Arul, 4 is Vmax. So to display like this is actually ordered list. Every item is actually list item, right? So we have to repeat the list item. So we can use this OL tag, and we can inside we can create list item using li tag space ng hyphen repeat. Then we can create a variable and in operator for iterating every data from the array. So from names collection it will take every data, and inside we can bind the data in the view. So to bind we have to use double curly braces, or we can use ng bind. Okay, so this way we can iterate array elements and we can bind the data to the HTML view. So now we'll see one example how to apply this array concept to store data as well as to retrieve data, and how to display the data in a table format using VS Code editor. So in VS Code editor, first we have to create a sample.html program, and using HTML, here we can automatically generate the basic HTML code. Just we have to type HTML and we can select this HTML5 option. So you'll be getting this HTML5 basic coding you'll be getting. And here the first thing is we have to include AngularJS framework library. So the framework library is, you can take the link from the internet. So this is a link, script src equal to from ajax.googleapis.com. We have to take the link that is actually ending with angular.min.js. So this is a link we have to include in our program to utilize the AngularJS framework. So we have to copy and paste that link. So after including this angular.min.js, now we can start creating our own script, AngularJS logic. So to create our own AngularJS logic, we have to create one more script tag. Inside one more script tag, first we need to create an AngularJS application object using, there is a one function called angular.module. Inside we can give the name of the application. So for example, my app, and we can create a empty square bracket. This is for including any dependency. So now there is no need of dependency for using arrays. So first we need to create a module. After creating module, we can create a controller by using this app.controller function. Inside controller function, we can write the name of the controller. For example, my controller, comma, controller is a function. So we need to create a function inside this. And inside this function, we have to use a parameter called scope. So to access the data from this controller, we want to bind the data from controller to view component, we need a scope parameter, right? So we need to use this scope parameter in our application, and we have to open curly braces and press go inside the curly braces and press enter. So when you press enter, we can we'll be getting a structure like this. Vertically we can write some code. So now we are going to see how to create a empty array and how to store some data using when we click some button, I want to store some data. Okay. So first we'll create a empty array by using scope parameter items equal to square bracket. So in this scope parameter, I want to store some data. Okay. So when I click the button, I want to store some data inside this array. So first we need to create a form elements for getting some data. For example, I want to store student details. Okay. So I want to store student details. So I'll put a title as, okay, student details I want to store. So first detail is name of the student I want to store. So we can create a text box by using input type is equal to text. And to retrieve the data from this text box, in AngularJS, there is a directive called ngModel. So ngModel is equal to, we have to give some name for this particular data. So that using this ngModel, we can access the value of the text box inside the controller. So here we have controller function, right? So from this controller function, we can get the data of this particular view. This is actually a view component, right? From the view component, we can get the data by using this ngModel inside the controller, so that we can add the data inside the array, right? So now we can close it and we can make a new break, and like this we can create two more text boxes for storing register number and CGPA details also. For example, I want to store register number, and the next one is I want to store CGPA. And here ngModel should be unique. So for here it is register number, and here it is CGPA. So these ngModel is nothing but a variables to hold the data, and the data will be already, it is accessible inside the controller using the scope parameter. Okay, so we can access all these data by using scope parameter inside the controller. Now we can keep one button for calling the function. When we click the button, I want to store the data in the array. So we can create a button like this, add student details. So when I click this add student details, the data I have to store in the array. So we can call one function. So in AngularJS, there is another one more directory called ng-click. Using ng-click, we can call function. So for example, I'll create one function called add item. So this function I have to create inside the controller. So let's see how to create a function inside a controller. So for creating variables and variables as well as functions, we have to start with the scope dot. The function name is add item. So equal to, we have to create a function like this. So now look at this, it is matching, right? So we created a function and we are storing the function in a variable called add item. Using this variable we are identifying the function right here, ng-click. So this, when you click this button, this function will be called, it will invoke the function. So in our job inside this function is to store the data inside this array, right? So here to store the data we have to use the function called push. Okay, so earlier we discussed about push method, right? So we have to use the push method for inserting data. So we have to take the array scope dot items dot push. Inside we have to store all these three data. Okay, so when there is multiple data we have to store the data in a form of JavaScript object. Okay, we have to store the data in a form of JavaScript object. So we can write open curly braces, first one is name. Okay, so name we can access scope dot name. So here what is scope dot name? Here we have mentioned ng model equal to name, right? So this name we can access using scope dot name. The next data is I want to store register number of the student. So register number colon. Then the next data we can take by using scope dot register number. Then comma. Then followed by we can take the next data also. For example, CGPA. So I want to take I want to store the CGPA also. So I'll create one variable inside the JavaScript object, CGPA colon the next data scope dot CGPA, right? So now everything we have enclosed with the curly braces. So here you can able to understand that when you want to store multiple details about a particular object, you have to start with the curly brace and we can store every detail by key value pairs. Okay, name is a key, register number is a key, CGPA is a key, and the value we are taking from the text box. Okay, so now when we click this add student details, the data will be stored in this particular array. So in the array it will be stored. Okay, so far we have done adding data to the arrays. Okay, so now let's see the output, how it look like. So to see the output we can execute, there is an option called run option and we can select this browser. So now the output look like this. We are getting the UI design like this text box, and here I want to store some details, John 101. Okay, and here we can store the CGPA 7.8. Okay, so now when we click this add button it will store the data in the array. Okay, so now here it is not displayed, right? So to display we have to write one more function, one more logic. Let's see how to display that also, how to display the data. So to display the data, after this button we can create one HR tag, HR line we can create, and we can display using a table format. So we can start with the table tag. Inside table tag we can create a border line, and one is a thickness, cell spacing is equal to 0, and width 40 percentage, and we can bring the table in the center of the page. To bring the table in the center of the page we can give margin auto, so the table comes to the center. Okay, so inside this table we can display the whatever data available in the scope dot items. Okay, so to display we have to use ng-repeat. Okay, so let's try. First we have to create a table row with the column header serial number and followed by name of the student and followed by register number of the student, and followed by CGPA. So CGPA also another one more table header. And finally, I'm going to add one more button called delete button for deleting the item from the array, right? So the one more column header we can create called remove record student details. Okay, so this is a column, this is a first row is a column header. The next row also we have to create, and we have to generate next row we have to generate depends on the number of items in the number of details, student details in the array. So we have to apply ng repeat inside this tr. Inside the tr we have to apply the ng repeat. So you can see like this ng repeat, and we can take the data item in, sorry, not item, we'll create x. For example, we'll create x in items. Okay, so when you create some variable inside controller using scope dot something, we can access this variable directly. We can access this variable directly here. Okay, and we are taking one by one, we are taking every JavaScript object. Then we have to bind the data. So first data we are going to bind is serial number. Serial number we can bind like this using, there is a one helper variable called index, $index plus 1. So $index is a predefined variable. It will give the array index position. Okay, array position, first data will be always 0. So serial number when you display, we have to display as 1. So we have to use plus 1. The next data we can bind called name of the student using again double bracket, double curly braces. The name of the student we can access using x dot name. Because it is a JavaScript object, we can access using dot the particular field, particular variable. Okay, so the next column we can bind the data x dot register number, and followed by we have to bind the CGPA also. So x dot CGPA. Finally we want to keep one delete button, right? So this is a remove button. So delete button I'm going to keep like this. So button tag, inside button we can write delete, and inside we can write ng-click equal to, we have to call one function for deleting this particular item. Okay, so we can write delete item within bracket which record should be deleted. Okay, the particular row record should be deleted. So we can pass the row index. Okay, I told you already, right? So here we have a $index. So this $index will give the index position, right? So that index we have to pass when we want to delete. Okay, so now for this particular function call, we have to create a function method in the controller. Okay, and before that we can apply style for this particular delete button also. For example, color we can mention as red color, so that the text will be displayed in a red color format. So now using this ng repeat we can iterate the data, and we can display the data in the table format. Okay, and here one more important thing is we have missed out is, after creating this module, after creating this particular module my app, this my app we have to connect with the body tag using ng app equal to my app. Similarly, we have to connect this controller with this particular body tag using ng-controller. ng-controller equal to that particular name, my controller. Okay, so these two directive I have missed out, and this is very important. After creating this, we should do initially. Okay, like when we create, after creating module and controller, immediately we have to do like this. We have to link the module like using ng-app, and we have to link the controller using ng-controller. Okay, so now we can save it and we can execute the program. So now look at this, we have a interface and we have a empty table. Now we'll add some data here. For example, John and 101 and CGPA is 7.5. So now when you click the button, it's added, right? Now look at this, it's added. So next we can change some other data 1 or 2, and this is maybe 8.5. Look at this, we are getting another data is added in the array, and as soon as we add the data in the array, it will display in the table also, because already we have used ng repeat, and we are binding the data, right, whatever available in the array, so it will automatically comes here in the view. So next, one more data, vmax, and 103 9.5. So when I click this add student, it will be added. Okay, now when we click this delete button, I want to delete a particular array data. So in order to do that, we have written a button, we created a button, and we have applied ng-click delete item function. We are passing the index. So for this particular function, we have to create one function here. So to create a function, again scope dot the names, the same name we have to use, delete item equal to function, and here there is a difference. Here we are passing something, right, some data we are passing, right, index. So in order to receive this index, we have to create one variable here, one parameter called, just for understanding, I'll keep it as index. Okay, so any variable we can use, x or y or any variable you can use here. Whatever index we are passing from here, will be receiving the data here. Okay, so using this particular variable, we can get the data. Okay, so the index we are passing, why we are taking the index. So to delete any element in the array, if you want to delete any item in the array, you need to pass index, then how many number of data you want to delete. Okay, so as I told already, there is a method called splice we can use. Scope dot items dot splice function. Inside, first thing we have to pass the index, second we have to pass number of items to be deleted. So here I want to delete only one record. Okay, so we can give 1. Okay, so that's all, just one line only, right? Scope dot items dot splice index 1. So when we click the delete button, that particular record will be deleted. Okay, so I have saved the program, already running. So we'll just reload the page, open, reload. So now it's empty array. Let's add some data. For example, joy 105, CGPA is 8.4, it's added, and Merlin, and the register number 678, CGPA is 9.1, it's added, and one more student Vmax, register number is 561 and 7.5, it's added. Now we have added 3 records. Now I want to delete joy record. First I have inserted joy record. I want to delete joy record, so I'll click the delete button. Now joy record is deleted. Similarly, I can delete Merlin record. Similarly, I can delete Vmax record. So complete. Whenever I click the button, delete button, the array element will be deleted by using the splice method. So here we have a splice method, right? So how it is happening, because when we click the delete button, we are passing the current index to this particular function, delete item function, that will call this particular function, it will be called, and here we are using splice function to delete the particular index data, right? So like this we can create an empty array in AngularJS, and we can use push method to store data. The data, we can store multiple data using JavaScript object also, and to delete we can use splice method. Inside we have to pass index comma the number of items to be deleted. Okay, so that's all about arrays with AngularJS. Thank you all.